Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is GriefDrums, and today we are going to be taking a look at Gridlock, the super thick, extra meaty Aussie attacking operator with a side of thighs, who also has the incredible ability to turn invisible. What? Where's Gridlock gone? Okay, so much like the recent Mozzie video I put out, we're going to be breaking down 5 tips for Gridlock in the hope of giving you some other ideas about how best to play her. Tip number 1 for today is going to be by far the most obvious: utilizing traps to cover the flanks. Now, defenders, if they are trying to flank and you have put one of these down, the difficulty they're going to face is they're either going to have to try and shoot it out or just take a hit on the pane. And realistically, if a defender goes walking through this, it's going to do a decent amount of damage, certainly if they try and navigate through the whole thing. So these traps can be utilized really effectively to listen out for anyone that's coming up and trying to flank you from a route that you may have to worry about. By putting some of these down, you don't have to bother with that. You don't have to keep checking over your shoulder. You can just listen for those audio cues, and this can be extremely beneficial. Certainly if the defenders are going to be funneled through a certain corridor or specific doorway that you have put these down in front of. This is not only going to give you the early warning, but it's also going to slow that defender down from carrying out that flank, and it just gives you more of an opportunity to focus on what is in front of you. This is specifically good if you are potentially solo queuing, or if you are sort of in an area of the map in which you're kind of stuck on your own. If you play in a 5-stack and you work with a team that actually cover flanks and you have someone doing a flank watch, it's not so much of an effective strategy. But let's face facts, not everybody does that, and a lot of people, they do end up solo queuing, or you go in with like 2 or 3 mates, they die, or if they're on the other side of the map, you can then play on your own and not worry too much about people sneaking up from behind you. Tip number 2 for today is going to be using these for intel. Now, during the TTS, I quickly discovered that you can use them kind of like a Zofia concussion grenade, where you sort of put it into a room or where you suspect an enemy is going to be, and as it goes off and it starts expanding, it's very soon going to start hitting that defender. So as a result, they have to shoot it out, or they have to do something against it. Once they start shooting, this then allows you the opportunity to A, either hear someone is there, or B, it's going to force them out of that area and into your line of sight. Now, if you've been playing the game for an extended period of time, you can gather even more information than that. If you hear a suppressed pistol going off, you're going to know it's a cav. If you hear a shotgun, you're going to know to take that engagement at range and not push up close to that person. Utilizing Gridlock spike traps can be really effective at doing this. Even if they shoot the initial cluster as it hits the ground and the spikes don't actually deploy, you can still gather the information. Alternatively, using these for sort of a bait and switch, so as you throw it in and they're preoccupied shooting that, you can also jump in through the window while it's making a load of noise and take that person out as they're focusing elsewhere. Tip number 3 for today is going to be don't bother taking breaching charges. Much like my tip in the Mozzie video, link in the description below by the way if you haven't seen that, you can use her secondary shotgun much like Buck and open up lines of sight, hatches. It doesn't matter whether you go above sight, below sight, you're going to be able to take out sections of walls, floors, anything that's soft. The shotgun is going to do that work for you. You can also utilize this sort of a tactic to open up the top of certain reinforced walls, you know, if the reinforcement doesn't go all the way to the ceiling, and then utilize that little gap to throw her gadget over the top. As you push in, that audio cue is going to throw them off. So I would definitely advocate taking that shotgun and utilizing her similar to, you know, maybe the way that you do with Jackal, or as I said with Buck, and opening up sections of floors, shooting down through it and getting those kills on the enemy. So that one leads me nicely onto tip number 4. If you're not taking breaching charges, you're obviously going to be taking the other option, which is going to be smoke grenades. If you're like me and you play a lot of bomb, smoke grenades can be really beneficial, especially when you're trying to obviously obscure lines of sight for the plant to go down. So by removing one of the senses of the defenders and blocking their line of sight, you can also then throw some of her gadgets down and block another one of the senses in the form of audio cues. If you start throwing a couple of these clusters into the room, it stops them pushing up towards you as you're getting the plant down, and it also masks the sound of the diffuser being deployed. Now please don't misunderstand me, you are still going to be susceptible to impact grenades, smoke canisters, C4s, you know, you name it. There's still a plethora of ways that you can die, but nevertheless, if the enemy don't know that that plant is going down, and they're not 100% sure, you definitely stand a better chance of getting away with it. Even if you just save one of these for when that plant is going down, and you're not waiting until the final seconds of the round, you could probably get away with a sneaky plant or two by utilising these gadgets to mask that sound. Tip number 5 today is going to be us facing facts. Gridlock is a big girl. Being a 3 armor, she makes a lot of noise, so if you can utilise tip number 4 to hide the sound of the diffuser with the gadgets, it stands to reason you can also utilise them to hide the sound of whatever you are doing as this operator. These things are loud, especially if they're deploying near you, and whilst it's not going to mask the sound of every single little detail that you do, if you start punching barricades next to the defender, he's going to hear you. But putting these down on one side of the site as you rush the other side, it definitely can be effective. Audio is huge in this game, it really is, and the amount of times that I've managed to get lucky wall bangs just through audio cues is insane. So being able to take away that sense from the enemy and masking the sound of you running or going on your cams or anything like that later on in the round can be really beneficial. Overall though, I do find Gridlock to be a bit of a strange operator. At first when I started playing the TTS, every situation that I was utilising her in, I was thinking, well, you know what, Nomad could probably do that better. And it wasn't until I started playing more and more and more of Gridlock that I thought, you know what, the key to her is not just flank watch. It's not just to protect against runouts and do a bit of damage to the enemy. It's more of a deterrent. These spikes aren't just a case of throw them down and forget, or just throw them randomly and hope that it's going to do some damage to someone. That's not going to be effective or beneficial to your team at all. Using them to hide sound of things, using them to gather that information of where people are in rooms and force them from that area or force them to occupy themselves with something else, that's the way to use her. Is she going to be the most effective operator in every circumstance? No, definitely not. She is going to be very niche and it's going to only apply to certain pushes on certain sites. Does that mean she won't be effective though? Definitely not. If you throw 2 or 3 of these gadgets down on a single staircase, that is going to be a nightmare for the defender to come up. Even if each spike trap only takes a single bullet to take it out right now, if you're a defender and you're trying to push up a set of stairs, having to shoot out several spikes in a line to clear a path, certainly if it sort of goes up one set and then back again, the entire time you're doing that, you are not only giving away exactly where you are, but you are also susceptible to being shot at. Instead of utilising your impacts to create lines of sight or anything like that, you may have to save one just to be able to get past a load of Gridlock traps in the corridor. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see exactly how this unfolds. Obviously at the minute I've only really played her on the TTS, and it's going to be interesting to see how the meta develops with her in play being used by so many other people. Nevertheless, hopefully these tips and tricks help in some way, shape or form and get your brain working a little bit, get you thinking about other ways that you can utilise her. But if you did enjoy this video at all, please consider hitting that thumbs up, and if you didn't enjoy it, hit the dislike and let me know why down in the comments below. If you don't already, make sure to subscribe for all things Rainbow Six, and until next time ladies and gentlemen, stay reckless and relentless.
How good was that floor bang?